Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Comedy Podcast. This is where you learn to live like a champion. On today's episode, I've got a gentleman here I'm super excited to learn from. Brant Pinvidic is an award-winning film director, veteran television producer, C-suite level sales presentation coach, keynote speaker, the list is endless, podcast host as well. But he has been named the Hollywood Reporter 30 most powerful reality TV sellers and is widely recognized across the world for his work. He's taken life, business, storytelling lessons and has developed an amazing career where he works with industry experts in the entertainment industry, business community. I mean, the list is endless. You will hear and feel his energy, his quest for adventure, and he'll tell us about his latest trip. And more importantly, the 3-minute rule, which I'm waiting for him to tell us about. He lives in Southern California with his wife, 20 years experience doing all sorts, but he's from Canada, what I absolutely love, humble beginnings as well. So let's welcome to the Comedy Podcast, Mr. Brant Pinvidic. Welcome, Brant.
That's me. Oh man, now that's an intro. I should be taking you on the road with me. That's amazing. I love that.
So hold on, before we get into anything else, what is this whole thing about this RV and going on the road? I love it. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm doing a mini version of that in October, going to Barbados for a month. Why? How? Why? Why did you choose to do this now?
You know, with COVID, the kids were out of school, and it was a unique time in the world. And my youngest son just said, at one point, he said he'd love to see all 48 states and visit the country. And I was like, let's grab an RV and let's just go do that. So we went to all 48 states across the country, went for 6 months straight living in this RV with the family. And it was the greatest experience I've ever had in my entire life. And it changed my kids and it changed the way our family interacts. It was a great experience to meet and see the country on basically a microscopic level, day to day. You know, we moved every 3 days to a different city.
Wow.
And you just learn really quickly that your impressions of what the rest of the world is and how they operate is completely skewed by social media and the news media, and none of that's really true. The country's not tearing itself apart. The world is not in a terrible place. People aren't offended and angry all the time. It's just not like that in the real world. The real world is a pretty good place, and there's pockets of all these terrible things, but for the most part, most people are all doing the same kind of thing. They're all trying to make a better life. They're trying to find fun and enjoyment somewhere. And the number of things that humans and Americans and other people in other cultures have in common is so numerous that in the real world, you just don't find a lot of places where they're looking at the things that they have that are different. It's mostly about what people have in common that you notice. And that was the biggest takeaway for us.
My God, that must have been such an eye-opener for the kids, looking at, because they live on social media, they live online. And for them to go out and actually see the world is very different from what they've known. How has that shaped them as young people?
I think the biggest thing was they learned to get out of their comfort zone and go meet people. And so we had a thing called Dinner with America, where every day we met some random stranger and invited them to dinner and heard their story. And it was interesting because we were in a different city. So you're in Delaware and you're meeting someone and you're like, well, tell me why you're here. What do you do? How did you get here? What was your family? And you'd get these amazing, interesting stories from people. And I could see my kids developing their story as well, because after 30, 40, 70 days, you can hear them telling the same version, but now they're starting to realize what people interact with, and they're just more confident with their interaction with grown-ups. And so they learned which stories always got a laugh, so I could hear them telling that story every time. And it was just really neat to watch them do that. And I think the other big thing was they learned that the intention of each day that we went to, because we had we're in a city for 3 days, so we had pretty specific things. We went to find the best restaurant in town, what was the thing you had to see in town, and what was a cool adventure you could do. And so it felt like every day the kids were realizing, like, okay, today we have to go out and find something fun to do. What is our adventure today? And they started to get in a system and a programmed nature of like, we're having fun today. And so what is it that we're doing? And so after, if you do that for a while, it's a good vacation. But if you do that, we did it for 6 months. So that just becomes your life. It becomes what you do every day. Was like, what are we doing today? What's going to be fun? And I remember being at a water park in Wisconsin, and the largest water park in North America. And what we didn't realize is just large. It's the largest because it's built in a lot of space. So there's a lot of walking, and it was hot and it was busy, and it just, by any stretch of the imagination, was not a great day. But I watched my kids just basically like, okay, how do we live today? And they just spent the day finding ways to enjoy the situation. All the negative sides of it, they just glossed over because they were there to have fun.
Wow.
We spent the day, and when we were leaving, they were like, oh, that was fun. And I was like, it really wasn't. Like, there was, objectively, if you just if you chopped up all the parts and looked at it, you'd be like, that was terrible. But they had a decision at the beginning that they were going to go have fun today, and they just found a way. And I've carried that a lot into my life. I've developed that as part of my persona and what I do and what I teach clients. And so it was really like enlightening to see the kids.
So question
do that.
Question. You're a busy entrepreneur. You've done extremely well. You've done a lot of things. You coach, you train, you speak. I mean, the list is endless. What did you do during that time? Did you still carry on working? Were you sort of having like half a day where you did your stuff and then you went off? Or what was it like with your own self?
So I've been in a mildly semi-retired mode for quite a while. And so, my core clients, it didn't really matter. Everybody was remote anyways. So for me, it was kind of like, I just take the morning, I do all the stuff I need to do. And then the kids get up and we have breakfast, and they hang out, and then we have lunch, and then we usually go out and have lunch, and then experience some wild thing, do dinner with somebody that we met along the way, and repeat the next day. So listen, a buddy of mine, Tim Ferriss, has this 4-hour work week, and he would always say how, you will be as busy as you let yourself get. And I noticed that too, is that if I just picked up right now and left for a week and never picked up my computer or my phone, I'd come back from a week and nothing really would be all that different. Right? So then you're like, wait, so is all the stuff that I'm chained to my computer for all day, every day, is it that important? Because I do that now. I just leave and go do stuff. And it's like, wait, like, what was I doing? I must be just making busy work for busy work.
So if a client comes to you with that sort of back experience and no experience, and they say, look, I run a successful company, I'm extremely busy, I do this, and this, I don't think I could leave, my staff needs me, it's very difficult for me to transition or to sort of work less, how do you teach them what to do differently, what you've applied for yourself?
Yeah, so I have a high intensity living sort of seminar and a training session that I do that does really, really well for that specific type of entrepreneur. So I deal with a lot of high level CEOs and leaders. That's sort of my core audience. And what I teach is, you can't tell people to work less, right? That's not in their DNA. You can't tell people to take days off and just relax. That's just not what they do. So what I train is actually 100%, like 180 degrees the opposite direction. Is I train them to be like, you should be looking at your leisure time, your time off, your time with your kids, your time with your wife, as the same opportunity to win and be successful as you are at the office. And what people don't understand, particularly men, because men are really bad at this, is that the craving for accomplishment and winning and achievement is the driving factor. And so when they go home or they go on vacation, it's like you take away that from them.
Yes.
And so it's like, well, that's not very fun or interesting anymore. And so that's why you have so many hyper successful men with no hobbies. And no life, because they work
and women too.
And so what I try to train them is, you can still do that. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it's I do find that women have a little bit more brain capacity for balance. It seems like women tend to make better decisions.
You're talking to one who did not do that.
I know. Listen, it's sad how it's spread, but what I have to basically show them is that you can be in a high intensity mode all the time, which is what they want.
Yeah.
But you can apply that intensity to your personal life and almost gamify
Okay.
success
Give
in
us
your
an
personal
example.
life.
Give us an example how they can do that. Someone is listening and they're thinking, well, yeah, I am there now. I don't know where to start. Give us an example of what you teach them to do.
So what I do is I use a contest mentality. So I usually tell them to start something small. Let's say you have to take your kids shopping this weekend, right? And it's the thing that you dread the least. You don't want to do it at all. But I want you to imagine if there was a prize and I came to you like on a game show and I said, you have 3 hours at the mall with your kid. You're going to shop for a dress for your youngest. You're going to get this game for them. If you can do that as the best parent, I will pay you $10,000 as the top prize for whoever does this next 3 hours the best with their kids. Now, high performance people would be like, okay, it's on. And they would focus and they would go into this situation and they would come out and they would win, right? And so I started doing that with my clients on small things like, hey, we're going to have here. I called it the 7-step challenge. This is the first time I did it for a professional sports team. And I had these huge 7-foot basketball players in the locker room. And I was like, here's what we're doing. We're doing the 7-step challenge. And there was 7 steps up to the next level. And I said, whichever one of you walks these 7 steps the best, that's it. I get to judge. Whoever does the best 7 steps is getting a $5,000 prize. The coach gave it to me. They're like, and these are multimillionaires. And all I said was $5,000 prize. And you could just see it. I said, oh, listen, do it quickly. So I want you guys to think, you know, I don't want you getting to the stairs and then not knowing what you're doing. So we're going to take about 30 seconds here. I want you to envision how you're going to do it so that we can just rattle through this, right? Now, I can tell you, you can see these guys with their eyes closed. And I do this in an audience full of people. I'll say, hey, we're going to do walk across the stage. You're going to walk across the stage. All of you here in the audience, 300 of you. We're going to walk across the stage. Whoever walks across the best, getting $1,000. But we can't sit here and take time. There's too many of you. So let's take the next minute, picture what you're going to do. Now, you could see people in the audience and you could see these basketball players. Their chest swells and they get a smile on their face. And like people at home listening, if you had to do that, if you had to walk the stairs in your house and a competitive against everybody in your neighborhood, like what would you do? Would you walk backwards? Like you certainly wouldn't just solve. Your brain comes up with an idea, right? And then it's like, listen, we're not doing that. There's no prize. I was just giving you an example of like how it works, right? But if you had to go to, if you're going to a restaurant today, okay, you're going out for lunch. And I went to the waitress and I said, here is a $10,000 prize. Give it to your favorite customer today. Okay. And you had to win it. And your goal was to win that. What would you do? How would you act? What would you say? You would be the best version of yourself. You'd be smiling. You'd be intense. Right. And so when people ask me like, don't you ever take a day off? Don't you just do nothing? It's like, yeah, if I take a day to just sit by the pool, I crush it. If there was a prize for top day off, I would be on the podium winning. I love that. Right? So when I go on a vacation or I do an adventure or anything, I'm like, if there was a game show around this, who had the most fun having vacation this week, what would I do to win? And so I'll find that I do that when I travel because I stopped saying I hate traveling. I don't like airports. It's more like if there was one passenger on an airport sort of travel today that they were going to vote as had the best time and did the best traveling between LA and New York, what would I do to win? Right. And it changes the way you interact with security. It changes the way you act around people and like I get off the plane in New York and I think if there really was a prize for this, I probably would have won. Like I had the best flight. And so I'll do that if I'm in traffic and in Los Angeles. Every single person on the 405 is going to be there for the next 40 minutes. End of story. We're all stuck in traffic. But if the Lord himself came down and said, I'm going to give a prize to someone who has the best 40 minutes in traffic, what would you do to be in the running for the gold medal?
I love this analogy. Like, I just love this analogy.
And so I train, high-level CEOs to apply that to their marriage, to apply that to their parenting, to apply that to their weekends. Because, the Los Angeles Clippers, they practice at a very high level because you need physiologically to be ready for the game time. But when they would go home on the weekend, like without playing, they're like, they're regular people living average lives. And it's like, you can't have your intensity here, practice and for your game time, and then your intensity down here and expect that you're always going to get it. It's like, you need to go home and be a champion at mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's really what it boils down to. And it isn't about pretending or faking. It's about training your mind. Your brain doesn't know the difference. It doesn't know the difference. That's why people love sporting events. I mean, you're not playing the game. Why do you care if Manchester United wins or not? It has nothing to do with you, except for your physiological self doesn't know the difference between competing in the actual game and competing in your mind, right? You want to win as much as anybody else. When you win, you feel elated, and so you are drawn to that. And if you can train yourself to do it in small pieces and more often, physiological, you won't have to try anymore. You'll just go into a situation and be like, how do I win this situation? How do I win today?
And it's such a good way, because I was one of those, as a woman, I was worse than my husband. Like I was one of those workaholics. I would not take time off. Like, no, I'm on it. Like I'm 100. My friend says, you're 100 miles an hour. You're nothing. Like I am like that. I am at 90. Oh, I stop. I don't talk to me. I don't talk to nobody. I don't see nobody. I don't want to hear nobody. Leave me alone. In that, no. But when I'm going, don't get in my way either, because I'm going. And I had to learn. My husband will tell you I'm still learning to deal with that, because it wasn't serving my health. It wasn't serving my mindset. It wasn't serving my business. It really wasn't serving everything. And I'm so in agreement with what you're saying, because we do need this. Now, look, the energy, I feel it. The quest for adventure, I heard it. The 3-minute rule. What is this all about? Tell our audience.
Well, the 3-minute rule is something we developed in television about how we edited shows. It's basically like I need to resolve a scene in 3 minutes or less because the audience gets bored, right? And there actually is a lot of science behind the human capacity to understand and make decisions and come to conclusions. And you have about a 3-minute window if you do everything right. So I developed what's called the 3-minute rule, which states everything about your business, product, or service must be conveyed clearly, concisely, and accurately in 3 minutes or less. You got to convey information. You got to generate engagement in those first 3 minutes. And if you don't do that, the odds of doing that later just plummet.
Yeah.
And it's because as human beings, we make decisions based on 3 very clear criteria in a very specific order. First, we conceptualize, then we contextualize, then we actualize, meaning we conceptualize. I got to understand what it is I'm like looking at, contemplating decision. Then I got to do context, as in how does it relate to me? How is it going to affect me? What is this going to impact me? And then we actualize, meaning like, okay, how do I make it actually work? What's the process of doing it? So that's the same process to decide what you wore today when you were leaving the house as it is if we're going to go to war with another country. It's the same exact decision-making process. And so what the 3-minute rule does is it helps you put all of your information into those 3 sort of elements in order so that your audience comes to the same conclusions that you're trying to lead them to. You can explain, and I use that in an acronym called WHAC. It's called the WHAC method. So anytime you're going to pitch or present or want to convince somebody to something, you put it through the WHAC method, which is WHAC. W is what is it? H is how does it work? A is are you sure? And C is can you do it? And it works like this. What is it? Which is literally, what is it? People want to start with how big the market is or what the problem is. It's like, no, can you just tell me exactly what this is? I don't listen to anything until I know what I'm listening to.
Indeed.
So I just need to tell you honest. So it would be like, I am a personal trainer that trains celebrity actors to prepare for action movies. Okay. One sentence. And now anybody listening kind of has an idea what I do, my pitch is going to be, right? Like I gave you quite a bit of information, but the only reason I gave you a lot of information is because I didn't color it with anything else other than exactly what I do. I'm a personal trainer. I train actors for action roles. So you already know some of the elements here, right? It's like, am I training them to like lose weight and stuff? No, I'm training them to get buff. And like you get a basic idea. Yeah. Right? Bang. That's the what is it? And that's very hard for people because they want to just fluff things up and add a bunch of stuff that makes nothing, right? Then it literally is, how does that work? Because that's our conceptualization phase. What is this? How does it work? Okay, now I can talk about something else. So when I go to how does it work? I literally like, okay, so what if I'm a trainer and I train celebrities for action, how do I actually do that? It's like, I actually move in to their house for 90 days before the role and never leave their side.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. Oh, I think I lost your video. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So I move into their house for 90 days before the role starts, never leave their side, so they never break training. Okay. Now, literally in 2 sentences, everybody listening now has an incredibly good idea of what my product and service
and
is.
a visual. They could visually see that as well as a visual.
Right? Yes. So it's not like I've had to go into great detail. I didn't tell you like the style of workout. I didn't tell you that yet, right? Yet now you have a pretty good foundation of understanding in 2 sentences that go. So now that's how it works. Okay. Now it's like, now I'm going to be saying like, are you sure? Now this is where I basically say, like, is this real? Like, can you validate this? Like, I get it, but is that really the way it works? Or have you done it before or whatever? Like, what is the thing, right? So are you sure is I trained Vin Diesel for Fast and Furious. I trained The Rock for and I trained Ryan Reynolds for Blade. So it's like, oh, okay. Like, I get it. Like, now I know the level that you're at. And now, like, it's clear. I can give some information. I have a 10-year degree. But mostly it's like, can I validate what I just said? Yes. I train big celebrities for huge roles that you know, right? I trained Robert Downey Jr. for Iron Man. Oh, okay. Now, all that's really left before I can really start engaging with somebody is like, can you do it? Like, what is the process? Like, well, how much does that cost? Or who pays for that, right? So then we say like, I get paid by the studio out of the budget of the film, and I'm booking 6 to 9 months out right now. So it's like, okay, I basically told you 4 sentences. Did I say I'm the leading Hollywood trainer? Did I say like none of that stuff? I don't need to say any of that. I don't need to get into how big
yeah.
And I haven't even told you what my dietary things are or what type of training I do. Do I do CrossFit? Do I do free weights? Like, right? Yeah. You didn't need to know that yet. You didn't need to know that yet. Now you're interested. Now you might be interested in knowing like, what is my training style? But what people make the mistake is they start with, I focus on free weights and training style, and they'll tell you all this other crap that has no relevance until I understand those 4 pieces. What is it? How does it work? Do you have some validation for that? And is this possible for me?
Yeah.
Now we can engage. And by the way, you and I might talk about my personal training business for the next 45 minutes, but you're talking to me from a place of interest. You're talking to me from a place of engagement. And that's how my system sort of changes the way people interact with each other. Is like, you start from a place of information and a foundation of understanding, and that will lead you to a place of engagement and up all your sales and everything from there.
I love it. I love it. I love that whole thing about conveying and the engagement and consistency. And I love it because it's what we consciously want, but we don't consciously say.
That's right.
It's what we just want people to just get to the point. I mean, it's an attitude of a choleric. A choleric wants get to the point. I got time to waste. Just tell me straight. Tell me yes. Tell me no. Tell me quick. I gotta go. Just give it to me straight. You know, don't beat around the bush and go time for them fast. Just tell it to me and let me go. Does that apply to all personality types though? Because some personality types, as you and I know, are more flamboyant. They are more, lovey, I want to talk to you. Can you just talk to me a little bit first? Can you just tell me everything? Let's just make it fun. Some people's like, well, sure. Others like, well, I think I need more information because that was not enough. And they are the melancholies. They want the graphs and the charts and everything else. Does this work for all personality types? And how, if not, how do you twist the same thing to match those other personality types?
You do not want to twist it for different personality types. This is a human trait. It is not a personality type trait. The next phase is a personality type trait.
Right.
Other people will want to get flamboyant and talk to you and be your best friend. Other people won't want to. And it's the same thing with presenting. I actually do better with like very introverted people. I find extroverted people like myself are harder to train because they don't want to do the work. They are used to having their personality cover for all the lack of actual work and due diligence they do, right? And that's me. I'm always looking for a shortcut. I've been able to get by in life by personality and stunning good looks. So I think But so
If
it's
you
like,
must say so yourself.
if I must say so. But the truth is like I would use those as a crutch when I didn't do the work. Whereas introverted type personalities, a lot of times scientists, biotech guys, oil and gas guys, they don't want to do that, right? They'd rather just stay in the lab. They don't want to go talk to anybody about this stuff, right? They don't want to go raise money. And so they're very eager, and they're very open to doing it my way, because they're like, oh, I can just say very little. Whereas I find the big extroverted personalities are more like, yeah, right? It's like, yeah, no, that creeps people out today. And so you do better to say less. Like that is my whole thing, is you say less and you get more, right?
So would you say, okay, let me ask, I'm going to ask you something personally now, okay? Based on your personal experience working with coaches, trainers, companies, executives, and many whatnot, what is the one thing that has shifted you to create this system? Was it you were tired of the status quo? Was it that you, why and how? What shifted you to create this system?
So, I was a happy-go-lucky television producer doing my thing. I got approached by an investment banker who overheard me at a bar one night, talking about TV shows. And he asked me if I could teach his clients to do what I do. And I was like, no, I can't teach people how to sell TV shows. And he's like, no, I want you to teach my clients how to pitch their ideas without putting people to sleep. And I was like, I have no idea. But he ran this big investor conference. I happened to be in Florida. I came down to see it, and he had me sit on this oil and gas presentation. And it was the worst thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I couldn't believe this was a $2 billion company, and this is how he was presenting it. And so I sat with a guy. I tried to help him a little bit during that. So he was there for 3 days. And he said, hey, I got to be able to hire you to come and redo my presentation. And I remember thinking, like, well, I have a job. Like, I don't do this. Like, no. But he was insistent. And I talked to the banker. He's like, well, just do it on a weekend. So we came out to LA. We spent the weekend together. He paid me a lot of money. So I was like, okay. And I just broke it down like I would a TV show. It wasn't like I didn't know anything about oil and gas, but I just broke it out, right? And I didn't think much of it. And because it was he paid me a lot of money, but it wasn't that much. I wasn't interested in doing this in any real thing. I had a pretty good gig going on. But I like being the hero, and he seemed like he was really happy and appreciative. But 2 weeks later, he called me and he left a voicemail, and he was almost in tears. And he basically said, you changed my life, and I'll never forget what you've done for me. I used to hate going on the road. It would give me such anxiety, and I was having ulcers, and now I'm excited, and I'm excited to talk to people, excited to pitch things. I just completed my raise, and the stock's up, and my wife's happy. And it's just like, I remember thinking like, oh my God, like no network president or studio chief had ever said anything like that to me before, ever.
Gosh.
And I was just like, my ego being one step from I'm basically a caveman. I'm one chromosome away. My ego was like, oh my God, I would like to get a little more of this action. And so as I started working with a couple other companies, and, I got to be the hero, and I'm just very susceptible to people telling me I'm pretty. And so I was just like, I'm in, I'll do whatever you want, so I found that the greatest frustration for a lot of people that I was finding is that they believed in their product or their service so deeply, and they were the frustration of not being able to make other people understand it. And being so disappointed that people weren't more interested, or they didn't share their vision. Like, that pain was palatable. And to be able to sort of undo that for them is very addictive for me. And so I end up doing I do a lot of free work, and I do a lot of stuff through my charity, and it's just like, I really enjoy opening that up. And it just so happens for me, like, it's my core skill. It's that one thing that I do incredibly well. And I'm not gonna say it's effortless, but it's taken me 20 years to learn how to say things in 3 minutes. But like, breaking down an idea is something I do. I just do that really, really well.
I can feel your passion for it. That's the thing. I can feel your passion for exactly what you said, allowing them to pitch this thing that's their heart to the right clients and be paid for it, because they know it's good and they know it works, but they just don't know how. That how piece is the difference between somebody earning 50 grand a year, 500 grand a year, 5 million a year, 50 million a year, literally.
Yeah. And it's hard because for me, when they come, it's like an ugly gnarled rock, right? Like just an ugly piece of crap. And it's just like, I'm almost overwhelmed sometimes. It's like, oh my God, it's just so convoluted. But like, as I chip away at it, like there's always a diamond inside. And it's like, when that comes out, it's just like, oh my God, that was so cool. And sometimes it's just like, it's very natural, it's very quick. And it's just interesting for me because it always feels like a challenge. Like I almost feel like I can't do it every time because it's like, oh my God, it's just, this is
It's
such a mess.
It's a lot.
Like,
It is.
and I look at it and I don't see it when I look at their original material. I'm like, I don't see what they're talking about. I don't get it yet. And so I almost feel overwhelmed where it's like, oh, I can't believe they're relying on me to fix this. Like, I don't know what. I'm scared. But every time I peel the layers away, and it's like, oh my God, there is something here. You know.
I am laughing because I work with so many clients that come to me and they're in exactly the same boat. And it is so rewarding. Sometimes you kind of think, oh my God, am I going to get it? You know, is it going to come? Am I going to get, I'm going to get it? And then it comes and then they're happy and you're happy and you're like, yeah, that's why I do what I do. So, Brant, last question. We've got to close.
Yes.
Listen, I could talk to you for hours. I enjoy doing this with you. For the people that are listening and they're like, gosh, I feel I'm right there. Like I feel I have a diamond and I know it's a rock and it's messy. It's not clear. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I feel a bit overwhelmed. How can they reach you? And what is the first step you do with them to help them? Whether they run a multi-million-dollar company, billion-dollar company, whether they're a C-suite executive themselves, just talk to them before we close.
So you can go to 3minuterule.com or brantpinvidic.com. I'm relatively easy to reach. And I do a couple of things. I don't take on a lot of new clients on a coaching basis right now. I do a lot of individual sort of seminar stuff. I like that. And then every quarter I do effectively people who wouldn't normally be able to hire me afford. I'll have like donate to my charity. And you can come and I have a place in at the beach in Key Largo, and so I'll let people come stay there for a couple of days, and I'll just I'll crack their ideas for them. So there's always opportunities from that perspective. A lot of times, it's like, send me your idea. I can tell you exactly where your problems are pretty quickly. The only thing I'm finding is that now that I'm able to strip away stuff so quickly and I'm getting used to it, sometimes I don't find a diamond. Like sometimes the idea is just not really a good idea. And that's hard for me because I'm used to that in the TV world where people will spend so much time and energy trying to sell a TV show. And it's like, oh, you're not a professional TV producer. You don't understand how the business works. If you did, you wouldn't be spending a whole bunch of time on this show because this show is a dog. It's never going to work, right? Wow. And there are a lot of people in business that do the same thing where they're trying to get into an industry that they're not experts. They're trying to launch a business that just has a lot of hurdles in front of it. Yeah. And it's like, sometimes it's hard for me because it's like, I don't want to say no. I don't want to shit on your idea, but like, I've been around business for a very long time at a very high level. I can tell you that this is not something that you will find success in. Yeah. And so that's hard for me a little bit because a lot of times people have spent so much time and money and energy and they just can't understand that there may not be a pathway to the goal. Right. And like I said, you can get any idea downfield into the striking zone. Anybody can get the ball there, but you got to put it in the back of the net. And that's really hard to do. And so I think that first step of stripping down the idea to the very basics of it really, really help. Right. And so then you can actually see what's valuable. And this happened to me. I wrote about it in the book. A girl was her idea was very convoluted and very difficult. And as we stripped it down, we realized it's really Airbnb for horses. If you have a horse, you have nowhere else to stay but a professional stable. Does that make any sense? That's like hotels, right? Where it's like there are people that have barns and stables all over the country. So you pay $150 to them and then you can keep your horse there. It's a genius idea, right? But until we were able to break it down into that simplicity, we couldn't really see how to build it. And so everything she was doing for years was a waste of time because she wasn't focused on the right element. And once we restructured it, and you could realize like, oh, this is the way to sell it. This is the way to build it and structure it. Now
Yeah.
it's becoming successful. And I think that helps a lot of people. So I encourage people to reach out and, send me some details and ask questions, and I'm happy to engage.
Yes. Brant, thank you so much. I know you're busy, and I know you dashed in to come and do this. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much. I really, really appreciate it. It was brilliant.
Thank you.
Oh, brilliant. Look, guys, you've heard it here. I mean, your impression of the world is not what is seen. That's the first statement that Brant gave. The real world, going out and learning and understanding the real world. Just getting out of your comfort zone. How do you craft leisure? Is it a challenge, or is it something that you enjoy? Is it something that you look forward to? Talking to myself, let me tell you, that accomplishment, what does that look like? Is going out and enjoying an accomplishment as much as working? I'm working on that, let me tell you. But more importantly, I think one of the key things in which he shared was that whole WAC method. What is it? How does it work? Are you sure? The validation. How does all of that come together? If you have a brilliant idea right now, and you want to learn how to present that idea, get the 3-minute rule, the book. I mean, you can reach out to Brant as well. Just do something, because the world is waiting on your genius. And that book, that program, that business, that idea could literally transform the world and help people in need across the world. So if you are at a place where your idea, you think it's amazing, you resonate with what Brant has said, go to brantpinvidic.com, send him a quick message, and also the 3-minute rule.com. Don't just sit there, but take action. You know me, I'm all about taking action. So get it done. This is Carmelita here from the Carmelita Podcast saying I'll see you soon. And I will see you.